YouTube, how you doing? Murph here, bringing you another product review. Today's review is going to be on the Razer Blackwidow V3 Mini Hyperspeed, which is a big name for a pretty small keyboard. This is a 65% layout just released by Razer. So this kind of slots itself between their Razer Huntsman Mini that was released last year and some of their TKL models. And this is part of their Black Widow line of keyboards. So it does kind of have this bolstered front end here. At the time of this review, this keyboard comes in only one color, and that is black. And it comes in two of their mechanical switch options. The first are the Razer green switches, which are clicky and tactile. And this keyboard here comes in their Razer yellow switches, which are linear switches, and they have an added sound dampener, which is supposed to make them a little bit quieter. And this keyboard retails for a whopping $179.99. Do keep in mind though, as we'll talk more about in the specification portion of this video, this is a wireless keyboard, so that does add a little bit to the price. So do keep that in mind. But $180, we'll see what you get for that price. As always, we're going to start off by talking about the design and the build quality. Starting off with the design, as you can see, this is a pretty standard 65% layout. It is a little bit larger than some other 65% layout boards, especially considering it does have on these three sides here a little bit of a larger bezel. And being part of the Black Widow family, it does have kind of that sloped front edge. That's like an extra inch and a half of space down here at the bottom. But overall, the size of this keyboard is pretty good. 65% layouts are my personal favorite, and I really have no problem with the size of this board. Other things to note about this design, as you've probably already noticed, is that there is per key RGB, and they have an RGB light under their symbol here in the front, under that Razer symbol. And as usual with Razer products, all of their RGB LEDs are very bright and vibrant. They look really, really good. These keycaps are double shot ABS, so they should last you quite a while. And these keycaps do have a slight texture to them, so it does have kind of a grip to them. They're not super smooth ABS. They are textured a little bit. Some people like that, some people don't. I actually prefer just a little bit of texture on my keycaps, so these feel really good. Razer also says that they used extra thick walls on these keycaps to help with durability as well. Unplugging this and looking at the back here, you see that this does have height adjustable feet. You've got a flat angle, and then you've got a 6-degree angle, and then you have a 9-degree angle as well. You also have, if you can kind of see it in the light there, 4 gamers etched into the bottom of the case. It also has 4 large rubber pads, one on each corner, that help it from sliding around on the desk. And if you're looking for that wireless dongle, it's stored right here under a little plastic door. And overall, the design is just really simple and clean, and I like the design aesthetic that they went with here. Moving on to specifications, as far as the size of this keyboard goes, it is about 31.8 centimeters wide by about 13.1 centimeters deep, and it's about 4.1 centimeters high as well. Again, this keyboard comes in 2 switch types, Razer green, which is clicky and tactile, and the ones that are here, which are the Razer yellows, which are linear and quieter, thanks to those sound dampeners that Razer used here. I wouldn't go as far as to call these silent switches, but they are one of the quietest Razer switch that I've ever used. This keyboard is wireless. You can use it either in Bluetooth mode, or you can use the wireless dongle that I showed you on the back earlier, and you can get Razer Hyperspeed Wireless, which is their seamless low latency gaming wireless technology, and it does work quite well. Or you can use the USB-C cable that they include here. It is going to be long enough for most people, and it is a higher quality braided cable that is included as well. I had no problems using it in any of those modes. Bluetooth, as usual, introduced a little bit of input lag, so I don't know if I'd use Bluetooth mode for gaming, but if you're just surfing the web or writing a report or something like that, that should be good enough for you. Razer Hyperspeed Wireless is pretty good if you go that route. I didn't have any issues with latency or anything like that, but I do recommend if you're not moving this around, if you're playing competitively, I would always recommend plugging in the USB-C cable. But do know that if you choose to use this wirelessly, of course, there's always going to be some type of latency when you do that, but it really wasn't that noticeable to me at all. So that is an option for you. And when you charge it up with that USB-C cable, you can get up to 200 hours of battery life, and you can charge it from 0 to 100% in less than 5 hours. Now, talking about Razer's switches, if you've seen any of my other Razer keyboard reviews, it's probably not going to come to any surprise to you that I'm typically not a fan of Razer switches. I've tried many different kinds. I've tried both their mechanical switches and their optical mechanical switches, and I'm just typically not a fan of how they feel or sound. What I will say though is this is my first time using their Razer yellow switch, and this by far is my favorite Razer switch. They're still not great in my opinion, but I do like them better than most. And I'll give you a quick sound test here with these. Like I said, these Razer yellow mechanical switches are probably the best I've used from them. As far as the alpha keys go, they feel and sound pretty good. The thing for me about this board, as far as acoustics is concerned, are their stabilizers. And then the spacebar is probably the one I have the biggest issue with as far as the sound is concerned, but it does have a little bit of a rattle to it. And one thing you might notice here, let me take off the spacebar. I was looking at their stabilizers, and one thing I noticed about these stabilizers are how wobbly it is. But look at the whole housing. I don't think I've ever seen a stabilizer where the entire stabilizer housing has that much movement or play in it, and both sides are like that. There's so much play in that stabilizer that I'm pretty certain that's where most of that rattle is coming from. Not even from the stabilizer wire, but I think the whole stabilizer housing is just moving around in there. And I don't know if that's this unit or if that's just how their stabilizers in this keyboard are in general, but that is one thing that I would like to see fixed. Overall, as far as the entire package and typing experience on this keyboard is concerned, it's pretty good. I do like the Razer mechanical yellow switches much more than I've liked any of their switches in the past. And while their stabilizers are pretty inconsistent, and you do get quite a bit of wobble from that spacebar, overall this is one of the best keyboards from Razer that I've typed on. Now, where Razer really shines is their software. As far as I'm concerned, Razer and Corsair's IQ software are the two best in the business. Razer Synapse is very easy to use, it's intuitive, and there are just tons of options for setting macros, changing the RGB functions, and all of that kind of stuff. So when you do pull up Razer Synapse, this is what you're going to be presented with. You can see here your connected Razer devices. Once you click on that, the first thing you're going to see is a little explanation of what's going on here. This is just telling you that this keyboard does have onboard storage. So if you change any of the settings and then you take this keyboard and move it to a different computer, those settings should save directly to the keyboard, so you don't have to reconfigure this on every device that you set it up on. Now, if you come to the top right here, this is where your battery status is going to be. And over here on the left-hand side, if you click this little menu button, this is where you're going to easily assign all of those macros. If you want to change any of these keybinds around, you can do that there. And then of course, clicking on lighting brings up the panel where you're going to adjust all of your RGB functions. You can turn off the backlight on the keyboard in general. You can adjust the brightness here. You can choose when to switch off lighting. You can either turn on an idle, so you can set it to like say 5 minutes. So if your keyboard is not touched for 5 minutes, the lighting will turn off. Or you can attach it to your display so that when your display turns off, your keyboard turns off as well. And then over here on the right hand side, you have your quick and advanced effects. Quick effects is just going to change your RGB functions depending on which one you have selected here. So for example, this would be breathing mode, where it kind of fades in and out, and you can select your colors or assign a random color here. It's also got reactive mode, which, as the name suggests, will light up according to what key you press, and you can change the color of that here as well. It's got, spectrum cycling. It's got my personal favorite, which is wave mode. And I'm not going to go through each and every one here, but you can see that if you are able to change a color, you can do that here. You can assign random colors. You can even change the speeds on some of these. And for advanced effects, you can download Chroma Studio, and you can actually assign RGB zones and things like that to this keyboard, and really just kind of take your RGB functions to the next level. And at the top here, if you click on power, you can choose to dim the lighting after a certain amount of minutes while in wireless mode, and you have a power saving mode as well. So if you turn on power saving mode and set it to like 20 minutes, after 20 minutes of inactivity, the keyboard just turns off. And that's pretty much it for the software. Again, very intuitive, easy to use. Now that we've kind of gone over the keyboard, let's talk about some of the pros and cons and ultimately whether I would recommend you buying this keyboard or not. One of the pros for me is just the overall design and aesthetic of the keyboard. I really like the design, the form factor. The RGB LEDs are very bright and vibrant. I really like the Razer logo down here on the front. And overall, the design of the keyboard is just really, really good. Another pro for me about this keyboard is the Razer mechanical yellow switch that they used in here. Like I said, it's the best Razer switch that I've used. It sounds pretty decent, it feels good, and I can't speak for the Razer mechanical green switch for this keyboard, but I do know as far as the Razer yellow mechanical switch, I am a fan. And as always when reviewing Razer products, another pro for me is their software. I'm a big fan of Razer Synapse. It works really, really well. It's easy to use, and I have no complaints at all from that. Another pro for me is the fact that wireless is included in this keyboard, and not just 2.4 wireless, but Bluetooth as well. So you kind of have an option of how you want to use this keyboard, two different types of wireless technology, or you can plug it in. As far as the cons, I think it's pretty evident. The first con is going to be the stabilizers. They were a little inconsistent both in how they felt and sounded, and I don't know what's up with the spacebar stabilizer housing with so much wobble and play in it. Seems like an issue for me. Maybe it's just my unit, but it was a little concerning for me how much play was in that spacebar stabilizer, especially considering it didn't sound that great to begin with. And of course, the other con, we've got to discuss the elephant in the room, and that's the $180 price tag. It does include a lot for that price. You are getting a pretty decent board, you're getting really nice keycaps, you're getting Razer's in-house software, you're also getting Razer switches, which can be a pro or a con just depending on if you like Razer switches or not. If you really like Razer switches, then maybe that's going to be something that is kind of a little bit more of a pro for you. And do keep in mind, again, this is wireless. That's always going to add to the price of the keyboard. It is a good keyboard, and I did enjoy using it, and the performance that you get out of this board is really, really good as well. But ultimately, would I recommend buying this keyboard at retail? Probably not. I think it is a little bit overpriced. For me, there's other 65% boards on the market that are going to offer similar designs, build quality, features, technology and specs and all that for a good bit cheaper price. But as I always say with certain brands of keyboards, Razer is one of them. If you already have Razer products, for example, you have a Razer mouse and or headset or something like that, and you want to buy this keyboard so that it fits in with your other products and you can control all the lighting for all of those different products and control them all through Razer Synapse or something like that, then for sure I think it would be worth paying the premium, paying that $180 for this board if it's something you're interested in. But for me, if you don't have other Razer products that you're trying to slot this into, $180 is pretty steep. And for me, the other thing about this board to keep in mind is at that $180 price point, you can probably find other 65% keyboards that offer similar specifications, design aesthetics, things like that. But one thing that's really hard to find is a 65% board that is wireless. And that might be where Razer is coming from as well, making you pay that premium, knowing that there's not that many 65% wireless boards on the market, especially of this quality. So my recommendation is, if you already have Razer products and you're trying to slot this in there, that might be worth paying the $180 for. Also, if you really just want that wireless technology in a 65% form factor with a good quality board, that would be another reason to pick this up. But for me, if you're just looking for a 65% board and you don't own any other Razer products and you don't really care about the wireless technology that much, there's going to be other similar options out there at much better price points. Overall though, I did enjoy using this keyboard in the week or so that I've had it. It was a good gaming experience. It was a decent typing experience. Overall, I do like this keyboard. That pretty much wraps up this review. If you guys have any questions or comments, make sure to drop them in the comment section down below. I'll get to as many of those as I can. If you guys want to see other content like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button as well. And YouTube, we'll catch you later.